It is Tuesday, September 30th, and this morning a partial government shutdown looking more likely as Democrats refuse to pass a clean, continuing resolution and instead demand even more spending. Mark Boyle does join us from the live desk with the latest on this. And Mark, despite those last-minute meetings between President Trump and congressional leadership, neither side's budging. They're both digging their heels in right now. So what can we expect today?
Well, it seems like we're going to see more of this fighting today there on Capitol Hill. It appears we are headed towards a government shutdown. Jan, a live look over Capitol Hill this morning. A lot going on there, but this is the clock we're monitoring, now down to 15 hours, and we are ticking down to midnight right now. The president summoned top congressional leaders from both sides of the aisle, but that meeting ended without a deal.
The fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
It was a frank and direct discussion with the President of the United States and Republican leaders, but significant and meaningful differences remain.
And right now, Republicans on the Hill want to pass a stopgap measure which would keep the government funded for a few more weeks through late November. Democrats are on board with that bill, but they want to insert a measure to keep health care funded with tax credits set to expire at the end of the year. Usually during a government shutdown, employees deemed as non-essential are furloughed, but a memo sent out by the Office of Management and Budget directed some agencies to consider the shutdown as an opportunity to reduce some of its workforce. The shutdown is expected to go into effect at midnight tonight. Unless a deal is reached again, it does not seem like that is happening.
And that's only because of the Democrats. And as you know, they want to be able to take care of people that have come into our country illegally, and no system can handle that. And so we're totally opposed on that. But we can't take it. We just can't do it. I'd love to do everybody. I'd love to do the whole world. But our country can't handle people that come into our country illegally. And they want to give them full health care benefits. They want to open the wall again. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it. They want to open the wall. They haven't taken away boys playing in women's sports. They haven't done that. Men playing in women's sports. It's like they don't change. They lost an election in a landslide, and they don't change.
House Democrats are on duty. House Republicans are on vacation. Shame on them for being on vacation all across the country and across the world on the eve of a government shutdown. We're on duty, they're on vacation. They're on vacation because they'd rather shut the government down than protect the health care of the American people. That's unfathomable. That's unacceptable. That's unconscionable, and that's un-American.
And the Democrats have a very clear binary choice. They can choose to keep the government open by voting for a short-term, nonpartisan, clean, continuing resolution, 24 pages long, or they can vote to shut the government down. That's what we're looking at. But we are not going to be held hostage for over $1 trillion in new spending on a continuing resolution, nor are we going to be held hostage to allow illegals to get free health care in a continuing resolution. These are things that they're demanding as part of their so-called negotiation. Ladies and gentlemen, there isn't anything here to negotiate. This is a routine funding resolution to keep the government open so that we can continue our appropriations work and fund the government in the old-fashioned way.
This entire shutdown is based on a ridiculous Republican lie. Speaker Johnson and Vice President Vance have pulled this out their hat. They're saying that the undocumented will be eligible for this. A flat-out lie. To weaponize the immigration issue in this critical crossroad and debate. So we're here to say to the American people, they are lying. They are the majority in the House of Representatives. They are the majority in the Senate. They're running the White House. And some would argue they may be even running the Supreme Court. They're controlling every aspect of government. This is their shutdown. This is not our shutdown. This is their shutdown.
The radical wing of the Democrat Party is demanding that Chuck Schumer shut down the government. If not, they'll be held to pay. We know that Chuck Schumer has had a war room going for the last couple of months to orchestrate the shutdown. That is their plan. So he comes up with this ransom note asking for $1 trillion to just keep the government open for 4 weeks. Republicans aren't going to buy that. President Trump's not going to sign it. There's a solution, and it's a simple, clean, continuing resolution to keep the government funded for the next 7 weeks as the appropriations committees work through the process. Democrats are pretty familiar with this. They've done it 13 times when Biden was in office, and the minimum number of votes they got was 65. But Chuck Schumer continues to bow down to that liberal wing, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. The American people should not suffer the costs and the consequences of a Schumer shutdown because he is politically toxic in his own party.
After months of asking, months, and mounting pressure, Leader Jeffries and I went to the White House yesterday to meet with the President and Republican leaders to find a way forward. And sitting in the room, it was very clear, behind closed doors, that the President hasn't fully grasped the magnitude of the disaster he's causing Americans. As costs continue to skyrocket for Americans, thanks to Trump's tariffs, economic policies, clean energy policies, and disastrous blunders, Americans are prepared to spend 114% more on their health insurance. That's right, that just came out. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation's analysis today, without ACA premium tax credits, premiums will double, more than double on average. And this not only affects those on ACA, it affects just about every American family with health insurance. As Republicans continue to lie, distract, duck, hide, Democrats remain ready to get to work, negotiate a bipartisan agreement, and keep the government funded.
We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested, so the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.